information, and our vision is Africa-wide to be able to provide, so then be able to, promote access to justice. So where there is no, so our vision is where there is no, quality legal information and access to justice, it's hard to entice. I don't know if you can start a presentation, if that's okay with you, so that we have this conversation.
Okay, let me share.
All right, as you're sharing. So in the meantime, I don't know if anyone here, I know many of you and some of you have interacted with AI. So I'd like to hear from someone. Feel free to unmute and help us define what artificial intelligence is. If you don't mind, this is supposed to be, we're supposed to learn from each other. I'll share what I know, but I would love others to, us to learn from each other. Kindly let, if anyone is, available to define for us what artificial intelligence is. Can you?
Yes, members can use the chat, but if you'd like to say something, you can just shoot up your hand so that we give you rights to unmute.
Yes. All right. All right. Let's define it. First, essentially, artificial intelligence, or AI in short, is the ability of computers to mimic the human mind, what the human mind does, which is reasoning, which is problem solving, and
Moses, just to interrupt you briefly.
Yes, Dr. Anita, that's all right.
Moses, a bit, some of the participants can't get you clearly.
Or they can't get me clearly?
Yes, there was a concern that your volume was low, so kindly just up it a little bit.
Okay, I've actually maxed it out. Is it clear on your side, Dr. Anita?
Yes, it is. So you might have to shout or raise your voice a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right. That's okay. Okay, right. So let me do my best. Okay, so what I was saying is artificial intelligence is the ability of computers to do what the human mind can do. Or I wouldn't say they do, but to mimic, which is number one, reasoning, problem solving, reasoning and problem solving. Now, the concept of artificial intelligence came up in the 1950s. Computer scientists then, believed that computers at some point will be able to do aspects of what, the human mind. So 1950s, they tried, but the challenge they had then was that the strength of computers then could not allow them to try out some of the experiments that have been done in recent years that have allowed companies like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and others to develop large language models. So the idea was there, but the computer resources or computing resources were not there. So for some time there was frustration. Then back in the 1980s, early 90s, let's say, early 90s, then the conversation is revived because now computers have become stronger and they could process much faster. So things like microchips. So if you have a company called NVIDIA is not company, or rather say the most, because it sells some processing unit. It's a chip that allows information to be processed fast, very fast. So images, videos, and the like. They began as a company supporting gaming and the like, but they have since pivoted with AI, and they provide most of the microchips that are required by these big companies like Google and others. So so that's how we've managed now to get to a situation where we have large language models. How does that happen? So researchers like Alan Turing, a computer scientist, believe that computers would get to a level where they can reason and problem solve like human beings. Ability of a computer is referred to as passing test. Now, for us as businesses, I'd like to. So, how does keep referring to it as a model? Model is essentially that relies on statistics to predict, the next. So it's able to do calculations and predict. So it's able to learn from that. So this can be images, it can be video, it can be text, and the like. So that's what we refer to as multimodal. Multimodal means that you're looking at text, voice, video, images. So when you're looking at when you study AI, you should know that it can help you in that way. So if you're, for example, a company that a media company, you know that you do a lot of video. So you will know that large language models will help you because they handle video. If you're a photographer, images. If you're a lawyer like myself, you'll be text to handle text, and a combination of all of those, and voice as well. So if you're an interpreter, voice is something that it will handle. So what happens? How are these things trained? It's important for us just to have I'm not trying to get too technical, but I just want us to have an overview of how the model works. So essentially what will happen, what happens is that this computer program, if you remember binary, the binary 1010 is given this information, images, text, voice, video. Then it gets this information, it learns from this information. It starts to segment.
I think we lost Moses. Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me just try. Let me switch off the video.
Yes.
And
can
just
put off
use
the
voice for now, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, because I think maybe my bandwidth. Yeah. All right. So now now like an example of generative AI. If the computer model, when it's being trained, the large language model, sorry, when it's being trained, it will learn, for example, that when you say it's raining cats, and it will learn that the next word is dogs. So the large language model does not copy information. The input that it's given is not copied. It just essentially learns patterns. That's why when people say, oh, these large language models are copying authors, no, they're not. They just learned from them. However, the copyright suits that we're seeing in courts right now are happening because the input information that was given to these large language models was not licensed, was not the technology companies did not obtain authority to use that information for training their models. So essentially, that's how the large language model works. It is that there's this input information, then it learns and creates patterns. So there are different methods of learning, methods like machine learning, where it learns, the machine is, it works independently and learns on its own. Then there's, of course, also reinforcement learning, where the scientists train it to learn, for example, if it tries to answer a question like who's the president of Uganda, and then you write something like, so you ask it that question, you use like ChatGPT, then you say maybe it's Mama Suluhu, and then you write back and say, no, that's the president of Tanzania. It will learn from that experience that that's not the president of Uganda, that's the president of Tanzania, and will then correct itself. That's what they call reinforcement learning. Then there's something called deep learning, which is a layered type of learning. Where the computer model will learn from its, like it's there's like level 1 and keeps, filtering information. So it's something called deep learning. So those are all the different ways that it learns. Then it also learns from your information. That's why I'll mention later that it's not good to give these large language models your personal information unless you're using an enterprise version that has guardrails. Guardrails are basically one that protects your information. So if you're using one that is developed for businesses, then you can share sensitive personal information. But where it's not, then don't do that. So essentially, that's the anatomy of a large language model. I thought it would be important for us to know. Now, how is AI useful for you as a business owner? Statistics show that the economies of countries, and especially in Africa, AI is likely to contribute about over $1 trillion by 2029, over $1 trillion worth of dollars. Like it's going to grow economies by $1 trillion by 2029. So that shows how is that going to happen? Research shows that AI is used essentially for productivity. It's used as a productivity tool. That means that it enhances output by individuals. So where, for example, and I've seen it in my own work, where I could draft like 2, 3, 4 agreements in a day, I'm then able at this stage to do like, where it was 2, now I can do like 5. So you can see definitely I get faster with my work. Then also it enhances quality. So in terms of quality, because the AI is able to process information faster and it's able to connect the dots a lot faster than a human being can, you then see that even the quality of information improves. Subject, of course, to verification. The human has to always verify the information because AI is hallucinate. We'll talk about that in a bit. But generally, the quality of information goes up. And then at the same time, you also see that, of course, once you're able to do work faster, your bottom line improves. I know that's what business owners want to hear. Your bottom line is basically your profits. Your profits improve. So, however, there have been, of course, fears. People say, hey, AI is going to replace jobs and all of that. But I'd like to mention a few things from a recent Wharton report. From the Wharton School, this is a report that came out just this week or in the past week, not older than a week. Number one, this research was done across 800 companies. So the caveat here is that this is information about how people are interacting with AI in the US, not necessarily what we have here, but I feel like we can learn. There are a few things we can learn from it as our researchers, get into studying our habits and how we as companies are interacting. Within this conversation, this discussion, I will also talk about the African context a little later. But right now, what research has shown, like for the US, is that, and this is enterprises, that financial services, professional services are leading in the adoption of AI. That also last year, so end of 2023, 2024 was really a time of experimentation. There was a buzz. There was a fear of missing out, what we refer to as FOMO. Lots of people were like, what's this? It was exciting. However, we've now moved from we now moved from that level of excitement to now a stage of rationalization, where leaders, these are C-suite leaders, those are, chief executive officers, financial officers, human resource, technology officers, are now sitting down and trying to really measure how AI is going to, so measure the impact of AI in their organizations. So basically they are setting KPIs, and this also includes the rearrangement of budgets, where before there was no budget line for artificial intelligence. We're seeing companies doing that. They're now rearranging, and that means, of course, cost cutting in some other areas of the budgets, of their budgets. So there's more intentionality, and research also shows that smaller SME type companies are confident that they will have a return on investment within the next 2 to 3 years, whereas larger companies expect a return a lot further down the road. The reason for this is that, of course, as we will talk about it shortly, is you see that, of course, the bigger the company, the more moving parts are there in terms of integrating AI. For example, you need to audit the technologies you have already and see how to link different departments of your company, like to standardize the approach of integration of artificial intelligence. So you have more departments, different goals in those different departments. So the conversations are more the level of scrutiny, the level of interaction, in order to prevent a silo situation where the results are different or disparate in different departments. Yeah, so I think that's the reason for that. But we can also see that there is also going to be an increase in hiring, where companies are realizing that some of the workers they have skills that are obsolete. So there's going to be an increase in hiring of AI skilled persons. So people that have their technical competence, yes, but at the same time have AI skills, because an AI is now seen as an assistant. So hiring of people will increase, whereas workforces, there will be also what's the word they normally use for that in the HR world? But there will also be downsizing of people who are not of jobs. Sorry, low skilled jobs, entry level jobs, which can be automated, especially those which are data heavy, where the jobs are blue collar jobs involving physical, using your physical movement. Those jobs are safe. So a report by Microsoft, which I read last month, also showed that jobs involving plumbers, carpentry, such jobs are still safe, because AI obviously is not going to be, it's not very physical. However, that being said, we have to note that artificial intelligence can be integrated into hardware and other technologies. Let me give you an example. Like in Uganda, we recently saw the police using AI to, in cameras, to record people violating, speed limits, and issuing out receipts instantly. The AI would capture using computer vision, it would capture using a camera, capture, a speeding car, capture your number plate, then issue you a receipt to make payment. So we've seen more and more AI being integrated into hardware and other technologies to, to enable it to interact with the physical spaces. So therefore, AI can also interact, can be used in robots. These robots can then move, and in manufacturing. So the report also shows that manufacturing is still lagging behind. So industries, people doing manufacturing, have been slower in integrating AI. I think that's because, as I've just mentioned, it would require them to integrate this technology into movable parts, like robots and the like, which is, I think, a little more capital intensive. So I thought that was something for us to talk about. Yeah, so now having said that, how can we use AI as business owners? I've already talked about the multimodal aspect of artificial intelligence, the fact that, and let's talk about different types of AI. So there's what we refer to as, generative AI. I think that's the one that can be, it's really, really, really very relevant for our times. So generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, Gemini, or our platform, Legal AI Africa for legal services, and so many others, Claude by Anthropic, Instagram. I think I would love to see in the charts if you can list the tools that you're using right now. It would be very nice to hear from you and see what you're using, so that Dr. Anita can take stock of that. Yeah, it would be nice to see what you're using now. But yes, so many tools, and as I've already mentioned, text, video, voice, images. So you find that as a business owner, you can use AI in different ways. Number one, you can use AI to analyze your finances. So it can prepare for you cash flow statements, profit and loss accounts, balance sheets. So you can use it for that in finance, for bookkeeping. So I've seen some QuickBooks already have integrated AI into their systems. So the other thing I want to mention is AI can be integrated into your workflows. That's the greatest aspect. So now I want to talk about agentic AI. So I've talked about generative AI. Agentic AI, so in generative AI, obviously you ask it a question, hi, can I know how to register a company in Uganda and to list the information for you. However, in recent months, we've gone a step further in AI development. We now have AI called agentic AI. Agentic AI is essentially AI that you can instruct, tell what to do, and then it acts independently. How does it work? For example, I can tell it, if I'm a researcher, I can tell it, I'm doing research around malaria in Luwero district. Can you kindly collect for me, do a literature review on malaria in Luwero, and then send it to me to my email by 5 p.m. today. Now, it's able to act independently. You've given it instructions, so it's then able to move on its own, collect this information, and then send it back to you. So that's why it's called an agent, because you become its principal and it's your servant. Then also how to enable AI to be useful to you. One of the key things is information input. So it's essentially an aspect of, as I already talked about the anatomy of AI. So now it's the aspect of garbage in, garbage out. If you give AI wrong information that's not, lack of quality information is one of the hurdles that you face when integrating AI. If the information is not of good quality, you'll have bad outputs. You understand? So with agentic AI and AI generally, you're able to integrate AI to your Google Drive folders, to your OneDrive folders, to your local folders on your computer. You're able to integrate. So therefore, you give it context. For example, you can say, please review. So if I give it access to my Google Drive, I can say, please review Wesi Consultants' audited books of accounts from the year 2015 to now, and prepare for me a presentation for the board meeting on this day. So it will then go through that content and give you correct information. But where the information is missing, for example, if I have some audited books of accounts for some years are missing, then you'll find that the output by the AI won't be good enough. So we talked about finance, human resource. AI is able to screen documents. So some of these tools, I will encourage you to practice. So spend 15 minutes each day practicing use of all these tools. So these tools allow you to upload documents. You can upload a report and ask it to analyze, or to give the AI context. Say, I'm uploading this financial report. Please kindly pick out for me information by the company secretary or something like that. or the chief finance officer, then it will distill that information. So it's possible for you to upload videos, so to give the AI context. So that means you can screen for human resource, you can screen employees, you can use AI like Grok to do background checks on people, because it can go to the LinkedIn, you can send it to the someone's LinkedIn to collect information, try and collect information, say if you're hiring a researcher, collect information on all the reports or journals they have published in. So it's able to do all of that. You don't have to do that manually. So it will make things a lot faster. Now, this one I'm very passionate about, product development. You can now use AI. So AI is now able, something called vibe coding. I need to talk about that. So vibe coding is where you can use natural language to instruct AI to develop computer code for you. So vibe coding is where you just speak to it, you either speak or write, and you can now, even without the need for a computer scientist, there's a caveat to that, of course. You may need a computer scientist to just verify that everything is okay. But you can, without a programmer now, program and develop websites. You can develop computer apps using, AI. Platforms like Future AI give you that ability. So it means now that's going to cut costs. It's also going to allow you to quickly develop a minimum viable product as a business owner. So you can prototype, you can ask it to develop for you prototypes of products. It can envision what a branding would look like. You can use, its image abilities to develop color schemes and, product, what they call it, packaging and all of that. You can use it to develop business plans. So product development is going to be a lot faster. I'm sure some of you already experienced the ability of AI to fast track things. So that's I thought I should mention that, and that's really, really key, because it would then allow one to have something to present to potential partners and funders, because people want to see what you've developed before they can back you. That's one of the tenets of investment. When I used to work in investment, it's, we need to see traction. We call it traction. Thank you very much. The next one, let's move ahead, if that's okay. Yes. So let's talk about, we've talked about how it can be useful to you. What are the drawbacks of artificial intelligence? What are the challenges that you may face using it? Number one is bias. Artificial intelligence will be, it can be biased. What that means is that if you give it information that has bias and is not fair, and we all know that a lot of these large language models are being developed by companies in the West. So if you have, say, information that has racial slurs or is racially, is racist, you'll find that the large language model is going to easily adopt that information. So that's why we now talk about sovereign AI. Sovereign artificial intelligence is now where countries and countries realize that it's important to develop their own large language models through processes called fine-tuning. Fine-tuning is where you get a large language model from the West and retrain it, or developing their own large language models. But the challenge with large language models, because of the amount of training required for it to get accurate, it's very, very, very costly. Although the costs are coming down with time, we've seen companies working much, much faster. Companies in China, like DeepSeek, have been able to bring down the costs, but it's still in the millions of dollars, and many businesses and even countries struggle to get budgets for that. But you realize that where a large language model is trained with Western information, it may not understand our Ugandan context. So it may be biased. So it will be important for businesses to to fine tune. What we've done at our company, for example, in order to retrain the model in Ugandan law, we've used a process called retrieval augmentation generation, which is to enable it to access local Ugandan databases so as to be more accurate. So therefore, it's so that it understands the Ugandan context. So that's very, very important. The other thing is transparency. Sometimes people do not know how the model works or how it arrives at a decision. So, for example, under the EU law, Uganda has not yet developed a law on artificial intelligence, although the government is working on it. But the European Union, Canada, the UK, the US have developed some laws. I think African governments have developed policies. The African Union has developed the AU Continental Strategy on Artificial Intelligence. And all of these are starting to look at how do we ensure that the actions of the AI are explainable. So one of the safeguards we have right now is that there has to be a human in the loop. That means that AI cannot act autonomously. It cannot. It must, whenever you generate information using AI, it will be important to verify it, because AI hallucinates. Hallucination means that the AI can make mistakes. It's not 100% accurate. So you need to verify that. So the idea now is that in no way should AI be the final decision maker. It should be a human using AI and then reading the content and then taking ownership of that content. We've seen, for example, in the legal industry in recent weeks, I think the other week in the UK, a company, a law firm was held responsible for providing fictitious law cases to a court. In Canada, the same thing happened about a month ago. So you can see that if you don't, the laws, my belief is that even the Uganda's law in future is going to be mindful of that. There's need for, and it's already mindful in the Data Protection and Privacy Act. We already have laws that say that computer systems cannot be autonomous. There has to be where you use IT or technology, it cannot take autonomous decisions. It has to be semi-autonomous. So that's very, very important. So in the EU law, for example, also, companies are required to provide manuals and explain how their technology works and how it arrives at decisions. Because even you, in your business, clients are going to want to know how you reach, how decisions have been reached, and you will need to know how your tools, your assistants, your agents are working. In some industries like the education sector, the use of AI has been limited to things like reviewing or editing documents and not actual writing. So you also have to be mindful about the laws and rules, regulations in your industry. So some industries have policies that have come up. So your integration or adoption of AI should be mindful of the industry that you work in. The other thing that we need to talk about is over-reliance. We also find situations where people do not want to verify the information that AI has shared, and they use AI all the time without verifying that information. That can lead to lawsuits. If you provide information that's not accurate to a client, and the client, takes a decision based on that information, they can sue you. Then, of course, data privacy and security. As I've already mentioned, these large language models even learn from your inputs. So the other way they learn is when you interact with them, they learn Ugandan information. So those that are open models, those that are being used, generic models, you should not provide your sensitive personal information to these platforms. However, the enterprise versions, which have put in place security measures which you can actually use and you can then share personal information with. So it's important that you identify that. Now, this also should take me now, Dr. Anita, to that aspect of prompting. I would like to talk about prompting or prompt engineering, if that's okay. I'm coming towards the end, and I'll take questions. I would love to interact with you, as I said, so that, we can have a discussion. You can ask questions if there's anything you need clarified. Number one, so the art of speaking to an AI model or a large language model is called prompting. Prompting is where you instruct and say, for example, I would like to know, kindly write for me a business plan for a coffee exporting company. That questioning, or that question to the AI that art is called prompting. Now, prompt engineering is the art that we inevitably have to learn as business owners, as workers. We need to learn how to speak to these models, and there's ways in which you can speak to them in order to get the best quality out of them. Number one, you have to be clear and specific. So for example, if you say, write for me a business plan for a coffee business. Now, imagine you're a coffee export business, because coffee business can be anything. It could be importing coffee. It could be a restaurant that serves coffee, But if you are specific, if you're doing export and say, right, so the answer, if you asked and say coffee business, would be different from where you said coffee export business. The answer that the model gives you is different. So being specific is very, very important. Then provide context. If you're using a safe model, like an enterprise version of the model, it is very good to give it examples. For example, if you are a photographer and say you want to develop images, images of people on the beach, say at Entebbe, it would be good if you have an example, you could get an image that you took, upload it to the model and say, I'd like you to develop for me images like this. And therefore you get a better answer, a higher quality answer than if you just asked and said, please develop for me images of people, chilling on the beach in Entebbe. You understand, you see? So it's really a question of garbage in, garbage out. The other thing is, so it's also important to note that you can interact with this model. Its first answer doesn't have to be what you take. You can ask it to, if it gives you an answer, you can say, can you look at it from this angle? Or can you distill the information to just this? So you can keep interacting with it. You can keep manipulating it in order for it to give you more precise information. You can also ask it to give it context. Also means you can say, please kindly review the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, information on the coffee industry in Uganda, and please help me develop graphical representation of this, this, and this. So you see, the answer is there. It all depends on, on how you ask. Then also, I've already talked about giving examples, so that's very, very important. So this is the skill that is going to really help a lot. It's a skill that's going to help. For workers, it will get you quickly hired. For business owners, it's going to improve your productivity. So I thought I should talk about that. Now let's talk about how to practically integrate AI. So that's, that one, how to implement. So this is what I would advise. Number one, of course, the leadership team has to take charge. The CEO and the board of directors needs to, take on this vision, then share it with and then it cascades within the organization. Then you have, middle managers and then also employees. Research shows that organization-wide implementation produces better results than individual or department level implementation. Right now, research also shows that, I think from IBM, shows that a lot of organizations right now are using AI, but the adoption is fragmented in the sense that it's really adoption by workers at individual level. So every worker has the tools that they use. So you'll find that, the receptionist has her tools. the finance person has their tools, and it's not at enterprise level or organization level. So the best results will happen when implementation is done at enterprise level, and that's why the leadership needs to take charge. There will be need to create special committees within the board to actually address implementation of artificial intelligence. Therefore, so that you have a specialized team. In fact, in some countries, people have developed an entire, governments have developed entire ministries for artificial intelligence. Like I think in the United Arab Emirates has done that. In another country in Eastern Europe, there's an AI minister. AI is now a minister and sits on the board. I mean, sits on the government, sorry. In the government, sorry, that's the word. The other thing that we need to take, stock of is being clear about our goals. What do we want the AI to do for us? If you're a photographer, you say, okay, I would like to, be able to provide different, landscapes without necessarily having to travel from one part of Uganda to the other. I want to be able to provide clients with different backgrounds. And so if that's your goal, then you will know what tools to use. So you see, so depending on your industry, you need to be very clear what your goals are for artificial intelligence, for the adoption of artificial intelligence. Be very, very mindful of that. Have clear goals and say, okay, we want to cut down on legal costs. So if we want to cut down on legal costs, which tools can we use? Maybe we could use legal AI to review our contracts, to generate contracts, and then only send them to the lawyers to double check and proofread the documents. That way you're only paying for proofreading and not generating the documents. So if the lawyer was charging you per hour, instead of 5 hours, now they're charging you for an hour's worth of work. So you're cutting down costs. So you need to be definite about that. Next thing is it would be nice to pilot, start small before you expand the adoption. Agree on your goals, pick the tools you need, have a working group test these tools, see how you perform, measure. Of course, like any goal, you have to measure. Once you measure, so if you measure the adoption and see that it's working for you, then you expand. This is because we are mindful as businesses that we have budgets, and there are lots of things to do with our money. So it's important to first start small and then adopt as you receive positive results. Then the other thing is to also do an audit. You can also do an audit of your enterprise and see which tools you already have and see how AI can integrate into those tools. So, for example, I've already mentioned to you that AI can be integrated into hardware. It can be integrated into your software. So, for example, if you have a Google Drive folder, you're most likely to get the best results out of your AI agents by integrating them to your email. There are ways to do that. We can do that in another session. Or you can reach out and we show you how that can be done. Integrate them to your local folders. So when you do that, you find that you get better outputs and better results. So it's good to take stock of what you already have so that you can see how to merge. And it may also be, it could also help you to know what to stop spending on. You could, you have subscriptions that are running, which AI could help you with. You could cut those subscriptions and channel whatever budget you had for those tools to integrating artificial intelligence. So that's very, very important. It includes hardware, depending on your industry. So that's very, very important. And the other thing is, it's very important, change management. Your team needs to be trained on the new technology. You need to be patient with them. You have to be empathetic, be understanding that it takes time to adopt and learn to adapt to these tools. So adopt and adapt. So very, very important. So this is going to require skilling, trainings, and the like. So that would be very, very key. Then the other thing is to develop a governance framework. So to have a policy to standardize the use of AI so that employees are clear about how and when AI should be used. So that's very, very key. And it will also help you, to be able to limit your liability. That's something we also support with as a company. Then the other thing is, I think those are the key ones. Those are the key things that I talk about in terms of integrating. But yes, leadership. Now let's talk about Africa. I've already mentioned that, Africa is a unique. A lot of the large language models are coming from the Western world. And so many of us are adopting those, but governments are now looking at how can we develop. I know, for example, Uganda has something called the Crane project, which is working with Google right now to customize Gemini for Uganda. And also, I think they're considering also working with cloud computing companies like Rock Telecom to enable startups, to give them space to train these large language models in their industry. So how, for example, if you're in the healthcare, you'll get a model and then you'll train it on medical data. That process costs money, and so governments are recognizing. And for example, I think the government of Uganda is looking at maybe giving 2 years free, access in a way to boost, startups and help them grow. So you can see, so governments are coming on board. So there will be need to develop data centers. I know Uganda is working on one, where, clean data. So data is gotten, cleaned. There are people called data scientists who help with that, clean up that data, and that data is kept well and can be accessed by different startups and organizations. So therefore, you'll be able to pay for that data so that you get clean data to to use. So that's very, very key for us. Of course, now the laws are important. The African Union is looking at, they have a policy already. You can go and read it on their website. A policy around how do we use AI to boost our development, especially our continental goals and also first global goals. We all know about the Sustainable Development Goals. You will see that the use of AI should ideally be, to solve the problems that are key in your country. Use AI, because AI used in China, AI will be used differently in China than in Uganda. In Uganda, some of the greatest needs include things like, education, health. You can see those are some of the industries that really need AI, agriculture. So startups should be looking at how do we customize the use of artificial intelligence for our problems. So it's not good to transplant ideas from the West. In law, we say, it's a famous judge who said, you can't transplant an oak tree from England to Zimbabwe and expect it to grow, because the soils in Zimbabwe are different from the soils in Britain, I try to mimic the late Dr. Robert Mugabe's voice there. But yes, so we need to be very mindful and, be thinking local solutions. Yes, so we also need to look at our infrastructure. We have challenges with our infrastructure. Number one, of course, internet. It's intermittent. I think yesterday I was watching NTV. Day before yesterday, I was watching NTV and they were saying things like adoption, of use of smartphones. Data is still a challenge for many people. They have smartphones, but data is a problem. Then there are those who don't even have smartphones. So how do we address that? So they were looking at offline AI tools, the ones which you just install on your computer or phone and able to use without internet. SMS-based, interaction. Someone can use a USSD to interact with an AI platform, a USSD platform to interact with AI. So we have to be very mindful. Then also low resource tools, being able to develop models that are not trained in everything, because training a model in everything is costly. So for example, if you get a model and train it to just agriculture, to be cheaper than training it on agriculture, business, banking, health, the cost is higher. So if you were able to unbundle these services, you find that it'll be much, much, much cheaper to develop this. So I hand it back to you, entrepreneurs. I know you guys are great minds. My job today was just to share snippets of what this technology looks like. I encourage you to go read, but most importantly, to practice. So, I mean, let's go to the last slide about how different businesses are using artificial intelligence. Like, yeah, that one. So you can see e-commerce platforms, they use AI chatbots to cut support, the AI can interact 24/7 with clients who ask questions like, how much is this product? So you find the AI does that. That would be so tedious for a human being. In agriculture, we see AI being used, to analyze leaves for deficiency in if there are any kind of deficiencies, chemical deficiencies in the plants, you're able to identify using AI. So that's really, really cool, especially for us here in Uganda. Fintechs are able to detect fraud using AI agents. If someone transacts and maybe the number is different from what the platform knew, it will flag that. So it's able to quickly do that. In the past, it wasn't easy for humans to do that. It was done manually and very tedious and costly. AI is being used, integrated into vehicles, like Tesla. Tesla has autonomous driving vehicles. Waymo has autonomous driving vehicles. So that's, self-driving cars now. That's something that's happening. Legal tech, like us here, we're using it for contract analysis, drafting. We can integrate into blockchain for smart contracts that execute themselves without the need for lawyers and parties to have conversations. Essentially, once a milestone is hit, the contract speaks to the bank account. The bank releases money, and so these are seamless, transactions. So all of this is happening. Thank you very much. I'm happy now to take not a few questions. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Ngorok. Ladies and gentlemen, if I were you and you have benefited from the session this morning, let's put our hands together and appreciate Moses for such a wonderful presentation this morning. Thank you so much, Moses. I was here taking down notes of how I can actually leverage AI and the different tools I've learned, the large language models. I'm even learning new languages. How to use it, how to integrate it in the hardware and software, and yeah, how to set up, the business, a business account, and use it more than the personal one. This is all beneficial, and the questions are already there in the chat, Moses. If you can just go to the chat, and we just want to take a few questions. Okay, we'll try to exhaust as many as we can, but Moses, I'll just keep picking 2 questions and then you respond, and then we pick the next 2. And so I'm going to invite entrepreneurs to just go to the chat room and type in their questions. Okay, Colin, thank you so much. I saw you giving people feedback. He says better results with AI are gotten from using the right prompts, and Moses has talked about it. Okay, so Paul asks, what specific AI can I use for new product development activities, like creating a new unique name? And I know you've talked about it. I think you just throw more light there for Paul. Violet says, what specific AI tool can one use to do all those things? Because I have tried ChatGPT and it gives basic results and are not good quality, e.g., a not so good website, product that is not enticing, etc. So according to Violet, ChatGPT may not be giving her what she wants. And I've also seen ChatGPT has different packages, so you might want to throw more light on those. Colin says if you can afford Colin says if you can afford to pay premium subscription, you will have access to quality features and tools. Okay, so Moses, let me bring you in here. Just throw more light on Violet and Paul's submissions, and then we'll continue to the next question.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Anita. Paul wants to know, he wants to develop a new product, and he wants to see the play around with the branding and the like. What tools can he use? Yes, there are different types of tools, as I said, depending on your need. For example, if you want to do coding, you want to develop, say, websites, you can use Future AI. But for image generation, for video generation, there are so many options. For example, you can use Sora. I think there's Sora for videos, so that you can get a video representation of, say, a product. Image generation, there are so many other options that you can use. Just trying to remember the names because some of these tools are not specific to my industry, but obviously I normally research them. You can use Perplexity, for health information. You can use you can use Claude. Now the other thing I have to mention, and this also links to Violet's question. Violet, so also the way the industry is growing AI is that they are tools that are specific to particular industries. Like I mentioned, there are models that have been fine-tuned. Fine-tuning is the process of retraining the model to understand a particular industry. So if you want, as I already mentioned, if you want information on health, you would realize that platforms like Claude